Hi, this is Cónal Creedon here in Cork in Ireland, and I'd just like to thank the Shanghai Writers Association for inviting me to be part of this project. My first introduction to China was as a guest of the Shanghai Writers Association, and that was back in I think 2008. And since then I've been there a number of times with my plays, and then I went back again with John Spillane to play a few concerts, and during World Expo, and they screened a few of my documentaries and things, and it's just been a great experience being part of the whole, I suppose, Cork-Shanghai connection, because Shanghai and Cork are twinned, we're sister cities. I suppose one of the things that really struck me about Shanghai, outside the fact that it's such a huge city and such a modern city, is the number of tea shops and the number of coffee shops. I think I read somewhere the last count there was like 8,500, and that's really quite a massive amount. But then again, I suppose realistically, you'd sort of expect that, because China is, it's known as the tea basket of the world. I have great memories of going to tea houses in Shanghai, particularly when I was a guest of the Shanghai Writers Association, because I was there with Irish poet Leanne O'Sullivan and Malaysian writer Tash Aw, and we used to hang out together and go to coffee shops and tea shops. But I suppose for me personally, I suppose the literary events that I really loved were the ones that were organised by the Shanghai Writers Association in their building, where their office is in Jululu. It's a magical building, and it's very fitting for literary events, because there's a romance and a romanticism about the building, particularly when one thinks of the original owners, and that the husband had the garden designed specifically for his wife in a romantic theme, and the water feature, the fountain, and the statue of Psyche is still there. But those events were really special, and we had a number of events there. One or two of them would have been in the front part, where there was a cafe, and we would sit and talk. And then there's a sort of a banqueting room at the back that leads out onto the garden, and there were a few readings there. And I must say, they really stick in my mind as being very special literary events in China. Café culture, particularly in a literary sense, is relatively new to Ireland. Traditionally here in Ireland, we had our literary gatherings, I suppose, in what we would call a public house or a pub. And in a way, a public house is a bit like a tea house. A public house in Ireland is a bit like a tea house in China, because it's where people go to celebrate or to mark occasions. But in my experience, even though writers and artists do congregate in bars, and special bars that they'd rather be in, it's not often that you would find high literary debate. It's really more a social event. And really you don't get writers writing in Irish pubs. It's not in my experience anyway. It's something you don't really witness too often. In Cork, the city I'm in, there are a few pubs that are traditionally synonymous with writers. Places like the High B, the Long Valley, Coonahan's, they're very established. And then there's always a new kid on the block, and at the moment Fiction on the Friary is it's a bar just not too far from my house here, and that's making great waves. But I suppose the nature of literary scenes is that they move very rapidly, because things change and people move on. But at the moment, that's more or less how it is here. Having said that, there has been a massive cultural shift from the point of view of coffee drinking. It's a global thing. It's like a tsunami of coffee has just swept over the whole world over the past 20 years. And I think it's only true to say that it was a change that was spearheaded by the massive multinational coffee roasters, people like Starbucks. Obviously Starbucks, they have something like, I think it's 32,500 shops in 82 different countries. And in a way, when Starbucks first opened, I, like many people, would have resisted, I suppose, what I saw as being a type of, maybe a cultural kind of imperialism. But now I realise that what it was actually setting the template for what a lot of other coffee shops have now fallen into. And they've created a new global culture, this cafe culture. And we're finding out that most countries, including China and Ireland, have our own indigenous cafe culture, coming very similar to the Starbucks model, that coffee to go. I suppose the magical thing about Starbucks is that, in a way, it is, even in Ireland now, where I said earlier that Irish writers wouldn't necessarily write in bars, but the way Starbucks and cafe culture is now set up, it has become, like, I suppose, the perfect marriage between culture, commerce and technology, because particularly since the arrival of the personal computer and the laptop, what you find is that writers do now go to cafes here and they do plug in their computer and they write away, and it's the way it's done. For me personally, I'm still very much, I like to write at home and I like to go out to socialise, and I think, unless I was really stuck, I don't really feel the need to leave my, unless I was travelling, for example, I would rather write, at home with my table and my stuff around me. What I might do before I go, I might just read a small extract, and it's from this novel. It's the final passage. The novel is the story of a man who takes his own life, and the book is his journey to heaven. The last paragraph is basically his view of heaven, which happens to be the same place that I suppose drove him to take his own life in the beginning. So here we go. We climbed the wall at Bell's Field. There before us, in a world framed by the salt and pepper cellars, the belfries of St. Anne's and the North Cathedral, my eyes embraced the beautiful north side, laid out before us like a kitchen table at Christmas time, cram-packed with dainties and delights, stretching as far as the eye can see, vanishing over the hill at Blarney Street and Knocknaheeny. Breathe it in, I say. We walk through the knee-high meadow, nestled down into a sheltered hollow, where sprawled there barefoot on a glassy ridge above the city, saying nothing, bolts of pleasure and pain as my memories travel across Brewery Valley, stopping off along the way at the North Monastery, Eason's Hill, Murphy Stack, landlocked Powell-Raddy Harbour, past each laneway, step and steeple, from the Bishop's Palace right over to the dome of City Hall, then all the way back to Redemption Road and over the city to the spiked towers of Holy Trinity, St. Finbarr's and the green tops of St. Francis. In the distance, the County Hall scrapes clouds, picking up the gold of a dying sun. I gaze out westward, out along the beautiful Lee Valley to the Carrigrahan Strait. There, like a last grasp at life, a setting sun sends flames of red and orange and yellow licking high up into the sky. Looks like Ballincollig's burning. My city is a royal town, dressed up in crimson and gold. In the distance, through the mists of time and coal smoke, I hear the cry of an echo boy, the sound of men walking and whistling their way home from the red city of Granabraher, the chimes of an ice cream van across on Spangle Hill, the bells of some cathedral or other, the yelps of children from Roach's buildings playing ball along the road. And as I say goodbye to this city of pain, it occurs to me that there is a harmony of movement and colour and sound. Everything is as one. The aromatic blending of Murphy's Brewery, Linehan's Sweet Factory and Donnelly's Bakery. She snuggles into me. This could be heaven, I whisper. Could be, she smiles. Could be. So thank you very much, and hope to see you all either here in Cork or there in Shanghai. Thanks very much. Goodbye.